Okay, so I wanted to get on here quickly and do a video that this was originally a LinkedIn post. I don't want the mirror to be in there. This was originally a LinkedIn post that I'm just going to turn into a blog post. I haven't actually been blogging, I've just been doing YouTube. So this one is called The Cost of Authenticity. So I've been thinking about, or at the time, and I still am thinking about authenticity. I actually saw a post about it today that made me think about it. But it said, if people saw what you look like behind closed doors without you knowing they were watching you behind closed doors, would they still have respect for you? Or would they cast you out and reject you? So this was a question I posed on LinkedIn, like I said, probably a couple months ago. And then I went on to say how you answer this question speaks directly to the level of performativity, both publicly and with others, including those you consider yourself to be close with. So many of us fear that when people finally see who we are or who we really are, they will reject us, right? Others have talked about this. Brene Brown talks about this. Whether this is imagined, whether this is perceived, whether this is real, that's not so much the issue, because we can't control others or what they think of us, right? We can only control ourselves. But others like Brene Brown have talked about this, how humans are hardwired for connection and belonging. We'll do anything to stay connected to people, which includes like we'll hide parts of ourselves that we think are ugly. We will perform and wear masks to not be rejected. We'll pretend to be something we're not. Just a whole bunch of performance that then becomes the norm, right? And I'm saying this is coming from me as somebody who did engage and does, right? Masking is something we talk about, right? Masking, I do a lot. Just trying to be quote unquote normal to get through the day. A lot of people, I would say, had lost respect for me. This is what I wrote in the post. When they saw how I was behind closed doors, and rightfully so, right? For many reasons, including the mistakes that I made. Others saw my authentic self and in all its range, and they respected me more, right? So those who love themselves in their range were able to accept me in all of mine. And I think those would be my people. And also recognize that even like people who were your people will no longer become your people at some point, right? That's just life. Change is very real, and that does include friendships, familial relationships. People come and go, and I think that's something that's a theme that's been coming up more and more in my life, is just recognizing the impermanence of it all, how temporary all of it really is, and try not to get attached, but at the same time learning that like I have to be able to build and connect with people at some point soon, right? Like I can't imagine or fathom myself building healthy, trusting relationships again, just because some of the relationships I thought were so solid, I learned were not actually solid. And that's a lot of it was my own doing as well as others, but then also just structural societal stuff, right? Like we're not taught conflict resolution. We're not taught a lot of these different things that we would need in order to be able to be in like healthy relationships with each other. And so that's kind of what this was looking at, is authenticity. I think it was Jack Haberstam, something has written about Gaga culture, not that one. Jack Haberstam, imperfect. I can't think of it right now. Use it, and they use a black feminist. I can't think of it. If it comes to me, I'll post it later. Perfectionism, just this whole idea that the perfectionism is a myth, that authenticity, like kind of just they trouble it. This idea that like who's authentic, what is authentic, who gets to be authentic, where is it, when is it dangerous to be authentic. Dr. Yazid has been challenging Dr. Brene Brown's work around vulnerability because Black women often don't get to be vulnerable, right? So, like, same thing with authentic. Like, who gets to be their authentic self? Um, you look at police brutality, folks with autism get killed, folks with so many different other disabilities cannot be themselves. Black people, just being your authentic self, right? You're too loud, you're too lazy, you're ghetto, you're like, there's just who gets to be their authentic self. And so that is what I wanted to talk about, just very briefly, not nothing too deep, no research, no, I just something to think about, right? Especially in this age of surveillance. It's interesting now in 2023. I saw a post yesterday about how the company Ring, the camera company, like the surveillance security company, there was like some misconduct in their organization where employees were breaching people's privacies and looking at their in their homes. And we know this is true. This is something I've been talking about for a long time in terms of like invasion of privacy. Folks were talking about it happening in Airbnbs. I'm staying at one right now, so I was thinking about that. My pet said I'm always living in other people's homes, so that's something I think about, right? Is like, are there cameras? And then the companies, do they have access to this? And then also, if they got hacked, right? People also hack these companies and then will leak different things as well too. So who gets to be authentic? When do you get to be authentic? It used to be that, you know, folks would go home, we go outside, we work in public, you mask, you come home, you finally release, you let yourself be yourself, right? You let your hair down, quote unquote. But now and I just talking about this like 8 years, like 2015, 2014, when when the private and the public were really being blurred for me, right? When like all of a sudden journals become public or just really intimate private things then become public, with consent or without. OnlyFans is a thing now, folks, deep fakes, all of these things, right? So you could be your authentic self, but then also it can get weaponized or used against you. And so there's a lot of cost to being authentic, and yet we continue to push that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't push that. I just think we should continue to talk about some reasons why people won't be authentic or cannot afford to be authentic. Yeah, so